Dub Nation, it is trade season. We just got a bunch of trade news surrounding your Golden State Warriors regarding their current trade targets and some of their trade targets that don't seem all too likely at this point. Plus, we'll obviously get into some Jonathan Kuminga stuff as well, as we always do on Warriors Today by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Tyler Smith, and there are some key dates to know here upcoming. We are finally here, Dub Nation. It is the week that Jonathan Kuminga can be traded. Thursday, January 15th, just 3 days away from the Warriors being able to trade Jonathan Kuminga. Now they will have about a 3-week window to do so, as the 2026 NBA trade deadline is Thursday, February 5th at noon Pacific time. So there will be absolute riots if Jonathan Kuminga remains on this Golden State Warriors roster past this February 5th date. Now, before we get into the latest reports from NBA insiders, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, because if the Warriors do make a trade, we are going to have you guys covered. If it's for a big name like Michael Porter Jr. or Anthony Davis, something like that, we're going to go live here on the channel. So subscribe and turn your notifications on so you never miss a moment surrounding your Golden State Warriors and who they might be trading for very, very soon. And if you don't think they need a trade, then I don't know what you're watching on the basketball court, because they absolutely do. This is the clearest example of it. The Warriors just lost on Sunday, 124-111 at home to the Atlanta Hawks. And look at what the scoring, just look at how everything shook out in the scoring department. Steph and Jimmy against the Hawks there combined for 61 points, 21 of 40 from the field. That's 55%. 66% true shooting as well, which is unbelievable. Everybody else combined for 50 points, 21 of 50 from field goal range, and 47% true shooting. That's disgusting. The Warriors, I've said it long enough now, they don't have enough players who can dribble, who can pass, who can shoot, who can score, all in one. They just don't have enough guys who can go get buckets. And we can't even rely upon Jimmy Butler to be a 25-point-per-game scorer night in and night out at age 36, and Steph at age 37 to be playing every single game, dropping 30, and willing this Warriors team to wins. They need additional scoring. They need somebody who can just go get a bucket when he has the ball in his hands. So that's why a couple of the big-time trade targets that the Warriors have right now are those guys. They're not centers. They're not true 7-footers that Warriors fans have been clamoring for over the past few years, because the bigger need right now is perimeter scoring. That's why, according to Brett Siegel of ClutchPoints, big-time NBA insider, he's been very tapped in with this Jonathan Kuminga stuff from day one. He has Michael Porter Jr., Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones listed as the 3 main Warriors trade targets. Now, I'm sure Golden State would love a package that includes both Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. I would assume Trey Murphy is the one they're more keen on at this point, as he provides that 25-point-per-game scoring potential. Michael Porter Jr., he's already scoring 25 points per game this season. He's at 26 a night for the Brooklyn Nets, and he could transform this Warriors team. On nights that Steph and Jimmy sit, you can ask Michael Porter Jr. to carry the load and will this team to wins. He is that guy. He's going to make an all-star team for the first year in his career. But on the Trey Murphy front, things aren't looking too great in terms of making a trade with the New Orleans Pelicans. We had kind of heard that there was some interest on Jonathan Kuminga, but not enough to make a deal or be dangling Trey Murphy in any trade talks to this point. Chris Haynes of the NBA and Prime saying the following: the New Orleans Pelicans are disappointing the market in informing teams that Zion Williamson, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, and Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears, their 2 draft picks for 2025, will remain with the organization past the February 5th trade deadline. We knew that going into this trade, Trey Murphy would command a big return in a trade, right? Big, a young talent, i.e. Jonathan Kuminga. That's what Golden State would be giving off to them, probably included Moses Moody as well, and multiple first-round picks. I heard actually from, I think it was Siegel, saying that the Pelicans were actually asking for 3 first-round picks for Trey Murphy, and I think teams probably just shut the door on that. So the Pelicans shut the door right back and said, these guys are going to stay on our team past February 5th. But the Warriors were willing to be one of those teams that would include at least 2 first-round picks, according to Brett Siegel. Siegel saying this: while the Warriors would be open to moving 2 first-round picks for Trey Murphy, Golden State is cognizant of needing to maintain future draft assets. Give me a break. Early signals from the Warriors are that they do not want to trade more than 1 first-round pick for Porter Jr., especially since such a move would involve trading Kuminga and Moses Moody. Joe Lacob, you are truly something else. Boggles my mind day in and day out. One day we hear him responding to a fan email saying, nobody is more frustrated than me. Nobody's working harder than me at improving this roster. And yet you won't send the picks, Joe. I mean, you got Steph at playing at a top 5 level in the league right now. You got Jimmy, who's giving it his all in the regular season, for God's sakes, and you won't reward them by just sending away a couple of draft picks. By the way, if things didn't work out, Michael Porter Jr. in these next couple of years, you could just trade him again for 2 first-round picks. I'm assuming he'll go for when he's 29 years old in 2 years. It makes absolutely no sense from Joe Laco's perspective why they wouldn't send these picks away. How about you just suck for a few years? You've had 4 rings. You're going to go try to do it again one more time. Who cares if you stink for a few years? Everybody in the NBA stinks for a few years. But Joe Lacob's like, yeah, no, we can work on 2 timelines. Sure. No, you can't. More from Siegel here. It's just ridiculous. This is where it actually gets laughable. Speaking of Moody, the Warriors are very open to trading him before the deadline, as he hasn't taken the step forward many in the front office had hoped for. Porter appears to be at the top of the Warriors trade list right now if they can land him for Kuminga, Moody, Hield, and a first-round pick. Whether this is adequate value for the Brooklyn Nets and whether that organization will even trade him over the next 3 weeks is the big question. Well, John Hollinger of The Athletic did report that Michael Porter Jr. is virtually a lock to be traded before this February 5th deadline. But I'm genuinely confused. Joe Lacob makes no sense. So you don't want to give away first-round picks, but now you're willing to trade Moses Moody because he hasn't lived up to the hype for you. But you think that you don't have to trade away any first-round picks now that you're adding him in there? You think that Moses Moody stinks, but he actually also adds value to the package that you're sending away for Michael Porter Jr. These guys are legitimately brain dead. Like, who do they think they are? Like, this is not prime Danny Ainge trying to swindle people in trades. No, you're Joe Lacob. You're laughed at by everybody in the organization because you've held on to Jonathan Kuminga for this long. And now you're going to let 1 first-round pick not let you get Michael Porter Jr.? It would be disgraceful. People would be right to come outside of Chase Center with pitchforks and torches, calling for Joe Lacob's job, calling for him to sell the team because he's not looking in the best interest of the basketball team at this point. That's what he would be doing if he doesn't send an additional first-round pick away for Michael Porter Jr. With that being said, I'm less confident than I was yesterday that the Warriors would be trading for MPJ. Will the Warriors trade for Michael Porter Jr.? You tell me down in the comment section Y for yes or N for no. Very simple question for Dub Nation here. Will they get MPJ or not? The issue that is kind of holding things up, because it's unlikely that this deal ends up being a 1-for-1. The Nets don't want Jonathan Kuminga. Brett Siegel said it. We've heard from more people, more NBA insiders saying that the Nets don't really care about Jonathan Kuminga all too much. That's dated back to the beginning of last summer, or else they would have signed him to an offer sheet and they would have gotten some sort of deal done then. But they haven't, because the Nets don't want him. The Nets know that he's not that good. But potentially some more teams could be interested. We'll talk some more Warriors trade news on Anthony Davis as well as Jonathan Kuminga on the back half of today's show. But before we do, I got to tell you guys about our sponsor, as this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops. And Prize Picks lets you take control with the best daily fantasy sports app in the game. All you guys got to do is pick a lineup of 2 to 6 players and just pick more or less on their projected stats. Prize Picks is the best daily fantasy sports app because they offer the best features. Like their new feature, early payouts. So if your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. You can also find your community on Prize Picks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click, like the picks you see on screen right now. You can copy lineups from your friends, creators, celebrities, even myself, and the football picks I have for tonight's wildcard action. I got Aaron Rodgers with a max discount here. All he's got to do is throw 1 passing yard. Yes, just 1 passing yard, and this square is green. Also got Nico Collins, more than 72.5 receiving yards, and Woody Marks, I don't think he's that good, less than 55.5 rushing yards. You can tell my picks or fade my picks. Just do them at Prize Picks. Download the app today, and new users are getting hooked up with $50 in lineups after they play their first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS. You can see in the bottom right of your screen for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So before we talk more Kuminga stuff, we're just going to nip this all in the bud. I think this will be the last time. We didn't even put him on the thumbnail of today's video because I'm just really done talking about Anthony Davis, to be frank with you guys. This came down over the weekend, And not good news on the Anthony Davis front. Not good on the front of any team that wants to trade for Anthony Davis, including what we presume was the Golden State Warriors. As Dallas Mavericks star Anthony Davis has sustained ligament damage in his left hand. And depending on second opinions and if surgery is required, Davis could miss a number of months. Does this guy ever play basketball? I mean, it is egregious. I can't believe Golden State even had some level of interest. Shout out to Tristy Rodriguez for this quote from NBC Sports Bay Area, saying that 2 league sources confirmed the Warriors' interest in Davis to NBC Sports Bay Area's Monty Poole, who noted that while the 5-time All-NBA big man addresses several of the team's needs, a deal coming to fruition still is more of a fantasy than reality. Shout out to Derek Jeter in his last at-bat. But if it wasn't going to happen now, if it wasn't going to happen before, then now it's really not going to happen. He's got ligament damage. He's going to be out past the trade deadline. There's no point with Golden State being nearly a 500 basketball team to bring in a guy in Anthony Davis that doesn't play basketball. So this is all done, in my opinion. It would have been fun to have a healthy Anthony Davis, but that's a tall tale at this point in his career. He's never going to be truly healthy. Now, with that being said, let's just quickly segue. Jonathan Kuminga, is the market picking up a little bit on his trade value? Well, I'm not so sure, but there could be some more trade interest, like we had noted last week about new teams being in the mix for Jonathan Kuminga. Danny Emmerman, longtime Warriors insider, saying the following: a league source described the market for Kuminga on Friday as warming, with multiple teams registering varied interest. The Kings, whom the Warriors destroyed on Friday, are among the teams fond of Kuminga. Obviously, JK didn't play in that game. It would have been fun if he was still in the lineup and then ended up going crazy and made the Kings up their trade offer a little bit. But I'm not really sure what varied interest means. What exactly does that mean? Are some teams not willing to give up anything for Jonathan Kuminga? Are some teams willing to give up a ton? I mean, I don't really know. One thing that we do know is that Jonathan Kuminga will be traded. And it will be traded by February 5th. Brett Siegel's reported it. I mean, Slater's reported it. Everybody's saying we are coming to the conclusion of Jonathan Kuminga's time with the Golden State Warriors. Whether that is returning a value back that Golden State likes, I'm not so sure about that at this point. What I am sure about is that that's stuff we heard last week about the Warriors potentially be willing to keep Kuminga past the deadline. That was all baloney. We knew it was nonsense. They were just trying to get his trade value up. I don't know if it worked. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. But they're going to find a deal for him at some point here over the next month or so. As we know, JK's jerseys have been removed from the Chase Center team stores. So clearly, everybody in cahoots with the Warriors, everybody in the organization knows that the days are numbered. Kuminga is going to be traded at some point. But it's good to know that maybe a couple more teams are in the mix than just the Sacramento Kings, because we've seen to this point Golden State wants nothing to do with what Sacramento can offer them. With that being said, who will the Warriors trade Kuminga for? Drop a name for me down in the comment section. Predict who the Warriors will acquire before the trade deadline this season down in the comment section. As that will do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, youtube.com/WarriorsTV. We'll be keeping you tapped in with all the Kuminga stuff, all the other trade stuff that you need to know surrounding your Golden State Warriors. We'll see you guys next time, and as always, let's go Dubs.